we've got a great guest today, and I think you're really going to enjoy this. Chase Giacomo. He is an Army veteran, and he also has been a student under Judge Barrett. He was there at Notre Dame. So Chase, welcome. We're happy you're here. And tell me, what led you to serve our nation in the U.S. military?
Yeah, thanks, Senator, so much for having me on. It's truly an honor. I think my interest in service really started on September 11th, 2001. I remember being almost 14 years old, got to school, and there was talk of some planes and towers, and then I actually watched the towers fall from my study hall. And I just remember at the time watching the country come together, the firemen, the policemen, the president, and everybody kind of unifying in this tragedy. And I remember just thinking to myself, if there's a way that I can participate and help and serve, I'm going to do it. And then fast forward a few years later, my mom threw away every recruiter's thing in the mail she got, and then she saw something from West Point and actually let that come through. And through prayer and some awesome people in my life, that door opened up to represent Montana at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, and then went on to serve as a Army officer and a platoon leader in Afghanistan, and one of the best and most rewarding experiences of my life, for sure.
Well, I tell you, it is so amazing to me how it seems that individuals who choose that military career just have such a tug in their heart for that service to our nation. And we have a grandson named Chase.
Oh, wow.
And it is so interesting to hear him talk about where he is going to go to finish elementary school, where he is going to go to high school, and then that he is going to go to West Point. That's his goal. And, he has that in his heart. Let's talk a little bit about Judge Barrett, because I really appreciated the op-ed that you wrote on Real Clear Politics and your relationship with Judge Barrett. And what we're finding out as she's going through this confirmation process is that she has indeed touched hundreds of lives in a very positive way. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think kind of the idea behind the op-ed was, here you had this guy from Montana, Army veteran, going to law school, and then you have this renowned constitutional law scholar from Louisiana, a mom of 7, teaching in the Midwest. And so it was just kind of this idea that this was an unlikely mentor for me, but someone that I found, I felt like a fish out of water my first year in law school. I was older than most of the students. I had multiple children coming from Afghanistan, and was dealing with some injuries from my time in service. And there I went to her office hours, which is a time where you kind of can go and meet with your professors one-on-one. And quickly it became apparent that she was much more interested in her students than I ever expected. She was asking about my wife, my life growing up in Montana, my children, and then kind of helped me strategize that first year on how to move forward, which ways to excel, and just, I guess, went above and beyond just teaching constitutional law, which is what is so common in law school. Is kind of the professors teach, and then they're kind of gone. And she was just there to really encounter and help and mentor her students, which was surprising to me, but also refreshing, when you're at that time where you're kind of feeling a little bit, like a fish out of water, like I mentioned earlier, and then to have someone come in and really just give mentorship, guidance, and encouragement through that first year.
And you went from Notre Dame to Harvard.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
And your relationship continued with Judge Barrett, right?
Yeah, throughout the years following that first year of law school, I saw her at certain events in the legal community, and then just kind of, reaching out at different seasons of life. Most recently was about, 3 months ago when my wife and I started going through the adoption process. And we knew that Judge Barrett, now Judge Barrett at the time, had adopted 2 orphans from Haiti, and also had 5 children of her own. And so we were like, who better to talk to about this process, because it can be a bit intimidating. So we reached out to her, and we were just overwhelmed with her response. I mean, here she is on the Seventh Circuit after going through those confirmation hearings, mom of 7, just as busy as you can be. And she just overwhelmed us with resources and giving context for her experience and advice and wisdom on, what her and her husband had learned. And we were just, I say of everyone in our life, she poured out the most into that, what was so important to us going through this adoption. And it just was surprising. But I guess when you know Judge Barrett, it's not surprising, because that's kind of her character and how she treats people in her life.
Well, I think that is so vitally important. And as I said yesterday in my remarks, much of what she has done and poured into the lives of others is things that she has done with a baby in her arms or on her hips, or a child in tow, or picking up one at baseball, dropping one at ballet, getting kids to church. It's all the routine. She is the mom in a minivan trying to get everything done in the course of the day. And your adoption is complete?
We are matched. We're just a few months away from it being all completed. So yeah, we're right in that process right now.
Well, we wish you well in that process. And are you in full-time practice now?
Yes, I am. Yep. I'm a full-time practicing attorney. I'm in the more boring area of law. I'm in trust and estates, so it's not as exciting as maybe some of the other areas, but I find it rewarding and challenging.
Well, I think we all really appreciated her remarks yesterday, where she laid out so much of her judicial philosophy and her philosophy of life. And we've talked about that philosophy of life with you, and how she has poured into your life to support you when you were coming back, as she understood the difficulties that you faced as a veteran, as an older student with children. But let's talk just a little bit about that judicial philosophy and her approach with the lessons she learned from Justice Scalia. How did you see that manifest itself?
Sure, yeah, no, and just real quick, one thing I would say is that I don't actually think I'm all that unique, in the sense that I feel like the classroom was full of people that had meaningful relationships with Judge Barrett. So just a caveat on that, I feel like I saw her interacting and having this role with so many people, which I think is tremendous. As far as the judicial philosophy in the classroom, I think Judge Barrett really wanted us to think, and she brought a standard of excellence to the classroom. And so I would say, she never came in and actually taught, this is a course in textualism or originalism. But I think what she did do was she came in and she explained how a textualist and an originalist would approach a law. And then she explained some of the other, approaches to statutory interpretation or constitutional interpretation, maybe a pragmatic approach or a living constitutionalism, as you might hear. And then we would be able to understand fully what different judges were saying and why they were reasoning what they were. And then I think it let a lot of us come to the conclusion ourselves, okay, if we look at all these methods, textualism and being a commitment to the text and what the authors who wrote it meant, it kind of serves twofold. The first being that we have a separation of powers, and we elect people like yourself to go and make laws, and we don't elect judges. And so you have this erosion happening of the process if you have judges just kind of thinking what their purpose is or what they wish the law would be. And then secondly, just an inconsistent judicial system isn't a fair one. So if one judge thinks that this is what that should mean and another in this circuit thinks it's that, well, then you have an inconsistent outcome, and then people can't predict the law. And so she never forced that on us, but I think she really made sure we understood all the philosophies, and then kind of rationalized and argued, well, which one makes sense and which one is going to lead to a just outcome and also be a part of the structure and the way our system is set up. And so I think a lot of us left the course as textualists or originalists, but I think she was really fair and was just making sure that we understood the different approaches so that as advocates, we would know when we're before, Justice Ginsburg or Justice Scalia, we would be able to understand what their philosophy is. But I think a lot of us, through logic and reason and discussion, came out, feeling like we were textualists and originalists, but weren't force-fed that by any means.
I think that is so wonderful that, she causes you to think through where you are as far as your own judicial or legal philosophy would be. And that is the way we learn. And so many people are very concerned that campuses are losing the ability to teach young men and women to look for the point and the counterpoint, and to reason and to analyze. So I really appreciate that about her. Well, Chase, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your op-ed. You all will find that at Real Clear Politics. And you're going to find me at Marsha Blackburn on all social media. And sign up for our newsletter, blackburn.senate.gov.